Today we're sitting in an NGNG B, and we're asking the old age question, who is better? Is it Intersphere or is it Clan? Now when it comes to an LRM boat, it's a hard argument, and there's a lot of pros and cons between the two. It's my opinion, and this is coming from somebody who's an avid clanner. I would say better than 95% of the mechs I own are clan mechs. How many people can say that? I can. I would say that the Intersphere does a better job on LRMs than Clan does. Clan does a better job on the number of LRMs you can put on a mech, but the number you put on a mech doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to do as much damage or more damage. The number is kind of arbitrary, and the reason is because of the way the weapons fire and work. Now there is some benefits and advantages to these mechs, and I'm going to show you what they are. So here we sit at 300 meters. We are locked onto the tail end of this Atlas. I don't expect this thing to last very long, but what I want to do is I want to show you how these things work. Now obviously I'm in range, there's no obstacles, and there's nothing that's going to get in the way. Let's take a look outside. And what I want to show you is how these weapons work. So we have a blocked out area here, and this is on purpose. So you're just seeing how the missiles are arriving. Here's a volley. See how they're striking in? They're not striking all at once. They're cyclic.
Target destroyed.
So it's going to kill the mech. But once again, watch how the missiles work. It's actually better to see it at further away. By the time the first one hits, you could have a time to adjust yourself and make some twisting action to get out of the way of the remaining coming in. Not to mention, when they fly through the air, you can really tell who's firing them. It's either an Intersphere or a Clan mech. Let's turn around for a second. Now we find ourselves targeting this mech here, and we're going to go ahead and set ourselves at 200 meters. I'm going to get that last meter in. So we're at 200 meters, and everything is in the white. We're going to do maximum damage. Let's do a volley. Okay, so we've established that we're doing damage. Now we're going to walk it in. We're going to find that number where it doesn't do damage anymore. Should be right about here. So according to this, it's in and out. So at 180, it's doing damage. And it kind of goes in and out. And the reason that's happening is because parts of the mech are actually closer to us than other parts of the mech. And that's why I'm showing you on this guy here. So when it's doing optimum damage, or it's doing damage period, it's because I'm aiming at the arms. The arms are clearly further away than the cockpit. The cockpit is very far forward. And that's why you can see it going in and out. See what I mean? So now I do a fire. doing damage, but I'm not doing as much damage to the center as I would like to be. But here's the interesting thing about clan mechs and their LRMs. Watch this. I'm going to come all the way in to 100 meters. According to this is not going to do any damage whatsoever. It is blacked out. There's no way it's going to do any damage whatsoever. Let's fire the weapon. I'm clearly doing damage. Not doing a lot of damage, but I'm doing damage. Watch what happens when you get point blank. Right here. We'll just set it at 20 meters. I'm still doing damage. Not a lot. 60. Now it's at 59. You see it slowly working. Now we're at 58. You get the idea. Let's go back to the shop. Today we're sitting in an Ebonjag B, and we're asking the old age question. Here we find ourselves back in the bay for the Ebonjag B. We're just using the Ebonjag B as a random. And let's take a look at what this mech has to offer as far as the LRMs go. Now each one of these is doing 20 damage, and this is the LRMs with Artemis, so it's the best of the best of the best LRMs you can get. Maximum range and optimum range are identical. It's 900. We now know that the minimum range for optimum damage or maximum damage minimum range is 180 meters. However, it still will do damage all the way down to including 20 meters. Now the amount of damage it's doing is practically non-existent. And you can see that when you look at the damage chart towards the bottom. It scales way down, so from 180 meters all the way down to 0 meters, it's still going to do some damage, just not very much. Now, these have a maximum range of 900 meters, and obviously a minimum range of all the way down to 20 meters, but they're not delivering that 20 damage. At 181 meters, we'll just say for a random number, it's going to do 20 damage. The cooldown is 4.6 seconds. The heat is 6 heat. Now, the velocity is 266 for direct, and indirect is 190. Now, when you go to an inner sphere LRM 20 with Artemis, the velocity indirect is going to be the same number as the direct is. It's going to be 190 for indirect, and velocity direct is going to be 266. But the cooldown is different. Once again, damage is 20. And then in this case, instead of it being 6 for heat, it's 5.4. The cooldown is 4.3 seconds. The range is 900 meters, and the minimum range is 180, also the same. The velocity indirect is 190, and the direct is 266. Now here's a little hiccup. On the minimum range of 180, if you do 179 meters away, it's not going to do any damage whatsoever. 0. And I'll show you that in the battlefield. The indirect and direct are identical. Now this has a heat management of 5.4 and a cooldown of 4.3 seconds. Now if you go back and look at the clan mech, this has a heat of 6. So this is producing more heat, and the cooldown is 4.6 seconds versus 4.3 seconds. So this is producing less heat and doing the same amount of damage, or is it? And then the cooldown is 4.3 versus 4.6. Now 0.3 is not that huge a difference. And the fact that this doesn't do any damage at 179 is kind of a bummer. Now, the damage that this does do is 20 damage, and there is a cost associated with the way this one works. The slots that this takes up for an LRM 20 with Artemis is 6 slots versus the 5 slots that are taken up on the clan equivalent. The clan at 20 damage only costs you 5 slots. It also only weighs 6 tons. The Inner Sphere LRM 20 with Artemis at 20 damage costs you 11 tons and takes up 6 slots. Well, why is that? Well, I'll show you. Here we find ourselves at 300 meters. The distance away, as long as it's above 180, is really kind of almost irrelevant. But I'm going to show you. So we're 300 meters away. There are no obstructions, and we are in optimum range because this is obviously less than 900 meters. Let me show you how this weapon fires. So once again, we find ourselves in the same spot. And here's how the weapon works. From the moment you fire the weapon, all the missiles fire simultaneously. There is no cyclet rate whatsoever. There's no 1, 2, 3, 4, and eventually they all fire. They all fire simultaneously. Now, what does this mean? It basically means that if you're being attacked by these, by the time the first one hits, the chances of you being able to twist and move out of the way to spread the damage is 0. There's 0 chance of you being able to twist in the time that it takes, and I'll show you what I mean. Imagine you're this unlucky soul. There is no chance whatsoever. From the time the first one hits,
target destroyed.
It's too late. Let's take a look at this at distance. They're all together. They're one big clump. You know what else works like that? Yes, an LBX. Think of this as like the LRM on the Inner Sphere mech is the ATM LBX combination equivalent, and like the ATM, it's guided. This is one of the reasons I love the Inner Sphere LRM, is because it works like an ATM weapon that fires all at the same time. Let's go back to the mech. Where were we? Ah, here we go. Now, here's the rub. We're going to come into 200 meters.
Target acquired.
We're at 200 meters. We're definitely within range, and there's no obstructions. I'm going to fire the weapon once. And you saw how that works. They all hit simultaneously. Now here's one of the differences between the clan mech and interspec. We're talking about minimum range. So here we are sitting at 180 meters. Now look at this. The back of the mech is actually 184 meters. So let's sync that up and get that to 180. So now we're at 180 meters, but we're not doing any damage now. Why is that? Here we are. We're doing 180 damage now. Just like the clan mech, this section is closer. You can see it just by looking at it. The arms, or the wings, if you will, on this toilet are further away than the cockpit. Kind of reminiscent of a bird of prey, right? Now let's see what happens when I fire the weapon. That's doing some damage because some of the mech is further away. Let's go ahead and just go for point blank. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Once you get past 175, it doesn't matter if I'm standing nose to nose. Nothing. I'd argue that you probably are more capable of doing damage to yourself at that range. I'm doing 0 damage. It's just because of the way the inner spheres work. So the takeaway that I've been able to determine is that the catapult, or let's just talk meat and potatoes, the inner sphere mech, as far as missiles go, not based on any other tonnage, but just on the way they fire and the way they work, apples to apples, the inner sphere does more damage than the clan does. The clan has the ability to do more weapon per ton. But when I've played these side by side, the Evan Jaguar with 4 ER medium lasers and 2 LRM 20s with Artemis, the catapult C1 does far more damage. I have far more successful matches as well. I almost feel like the clan equivalent is handicapped in the delivery system. The delivery system of the LRMs doesn't work nearly as efficiently as it does on the inner sphere. The clan is supposed to be like a newer, better version. But if that was the case, how come the LRMs don't fire the same? So you're thinking, oh, okay, well then let's get an ATM weapon. The ATM weapons don't fire the same way. And the reason, what I mean by that is that they don't have indirect fire that operates in the same pattern. When I'm being shot at, or I'm shooting somebody with a clan LRM or an ATM, because of the way they're operating now after PGI's adjustments in the last patch, and in the last 2 patches for that matter, they don't fire nearly as high in the air. When I'm being hit all at once by missiles, I know that I'm being hit by an inner sphere weapon. And even if I'm against a building, it almost feels like they're dropping 90 degrees out of the sky, straight down on top of me. I can be against a building and still being hit. But on a clan mech, being hit almost never happens when I'm directly against a building. It's really rare. I can usually just sit against the wall, and look at the structures and why aren't the trees on fire, because I feel like I'm on fire. But if I'm being attacked by an inner sphere mech, I try to get as close to a building or underneath something as I can as quickly as possible, and I even will go as far as to face the wall or back up against it as tightly as I can, because until that guy loses missile lock or interest, because if there's a UAV above me, he still can continue to pelt me with weapon fire, even at that angle and at that building be against me. He can still hit me and do damage. And that's why I give the nod to the inner sphere mech, is because the inner sphere mech is delivering all the damage from when the first missile is launched to the last missile strikes. When they all strike at the same time, you can do more damage in a given area than with the missiles randomly striking at a slower rate of fire, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 20, versus 20, 20, 20, 20. That's how this does more damage. I did 5 matches with the catapult, and I did 5 matches with the Eb and Jag, and the catapult came out on top every single time. And believe me, I really want the clan to do the best possible job. But the inner sphere is definitely the clear winner in this case. It's hard for me to admit. The only thing I give the nod for on the inner sphere mech, the clan mech, excuse me. Well, let's talk about the inner sphere mech. Between the two, this is actually less hard to hit than it is on the clan mech from the front. Yeah, it's got these big boxes and this big wide torso, but that's all it has. Look how narrow this thing is. It looks like it's really wide. It's not as wide as, say, a stalker, but from the side, it is got some really big hitboxes with these arms. And the legs are much, in the torso, specifically the hips, are exposed. There is no blocking whatsoever. Now, if you come and look at the clan mech, you've got a lot of blockage of the center torso and some of the hips here. And it does have those big pods upstairs for the LRMs. And not to mention, these arms are also blocking a lot of the torso side here as well. Not just the hip area, but the main torso. However, this thing is so wide, it barely fits in the screen. Let me face it toward. Some of the mech is off the screen here on the side. That's how wide this thing is. This has got a huge hitbox from the front. These arms, it's not doing itself any justice. In order to get 4 ER mediums on here, you have to put them out on the arms. Whereas on the inner sphere equivalent, 2 of them are here, and the other 2 are out on the arms here and here. So these are actually, the ones that are out on the arms are actually almost in line with the cockpit. But on these, only one pair, actually both pair, are below the cockpit. It looks like it's the same height, but it's not. These are clearly following this trajectory. They're below the cockpit quite a bit. And these ones here are way down. They're not even in line with the cockpit. On the inner sphere, there's one here and there's one here, right below the cockpit. And look at the difference in height. They're going straight across. They're way down. And also, when you lose these arms, guess what? Defensive weapons are gone. I've had this thing out on the battlefield, and I lost both of these. It was hysterical. I went into third person so I could see how bad it looked. It was because I was like, wait, I'm missing all my missiles. None of them are firing, and my arms look like they're gone. And I went into third person. I was like, holy shit. Somebody stripped me down. I look like a mad cat driving around without any bunny ears. But I still have those 2 lasers right in the center torso. So I have to give the nod to the inner spear in this case. This is a far superior mech as far as fireability. Now on the Ebonjag, it can't carry any more than the 2 missiles as it's an option. But if you jump over to this guy can carry 4 missile points, and they're both in the same locations. And if you go to a catapult A1, you can get 6 missile points. Now granted, those are going to be all your weapons, and they are out on the arms, so you're not going to have anything that's on the center torso. But you can carry it all. By the way, with the exceptions of these laser spots here, which aren't going to be visible until you're really, really close to somebody, this catapult C4, the A1, and the C1 look identical. They're absolutely 100% identical, other than this one having that. And that makes that wonderful, because nobody knows until you're right upon them and they get lock information and paper doll information what you're carrying. Just in the distance, all you see is it's this. This could be MRM 40s, this could be LRM 10s, this could be a number of different things. Anyways, hope you found this informative.